Hello, this is Ollie's Movie Madness, and I'm going to be doing a movie review of Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania. Now, this film, I don't think it is as horrible as a lot of people say it is. In fact, I would say this is the most underrated MCU film, and while it is my least favorite in the Ant-Man trilogy, I will say it's better than Black Widow because this one's a lot more memorable. And the storyline's a lot more interesting and has higher stakes. So, let's talk about it. So, the movie revolves around, Scott Lang slash Ant-Man. He has published this book, and he finds out that daughter Cassie has been arrested. He visits her, and then there's this part where he and her have a very serious chat about her becoming a superhero. And she mentions to Scott Lang, aka her dad, that she and Hank and Janet have been working on this machine that can send signals to the quantum realm. So they turn it on. The machine starts to malfunction because Janet has PTSD, and they get sucked into the quantum realm. And then they meet this guy named Kang, who tells them that they can go home if they help him build his time machine. But unbeknownst to them, Kang has other plans. So it's up to Ant-Man and the Wasp and Janet and Hank and Cassie to take down Kang the Conqueror and MODOK, aka Darren Cross, who is seeking revenge on Scott Lang slash Ant-Man for what he did to him in the first Ant-Man film. And that's basically what the storyline is for this movie. And yes, it's a little convoluted, but it's not as bad as the storyline in Spider-Man 3. Spider-Man 3 is a lot more messy. Even Avengers Age of Ultron, I would say, is even more messier than this film. But the performances are all awesome. Paul Rudd is always tremendous as Ant-Man, aka Scott Lang. Ever since 2015, he's played this character. And in this film, he is still entertaining and really fun. And he's a lot more serious than he was in the first two Ant-Man films. But Ant-Man still is funny. There's some jokes that he says that are really funny. The character of Scott Lang does go through a massive character arc. He has to take down Kang and protect his daughter and get out of the quantum realm. The scene where he meets Kang is a very dark and suspenseful moment where he says, "No, I don't think I don't think we do," and then Kang just tried to kill Cassie, which we'll get to that whole scene later. But that scene of them getting stuck in the quantum realm is really dark. Michael Douglas comes back as Hank Pym and Evangeline Lilly. This is their last time playing the Wasp, aka Hope Van Dyne, and they don't have a lot to do in the movie, but they're in it enough to be entertaining. Hank is shocked that his wife was stuck in the quantum realm for 30 years. Hope is also really surprised, and it's even more shocking when Hank sees Darren Cross, who is now MODOK, and that was a really shocking moment because he thought MODOK was dead, thought Darren Cross died in the quantum realm from the first movie, but he came back. Catherine Newton is still amazing as Cassie. I know a lot of people have gone on saying that she's very annoying and unlikable, but I didn't mind that. Making her unlikable would have to be a good idea because, she kind of mad at her dad for not spending enough time with her. And the scene where she tells her dad not to listen to Kang was really dark and really suspenseful. I like how this film pushes the darker elements more than the second or even the first movie. Because the first two Ant-Man movies are really, really funny and more lighthearted. This one goes for a more darker tone. Michelle Pfeiffer steals the show as the original Wasp, aka Janet Van Dyne. You can see the trouble that she's going through. She has PTSD of Kang, so that's why she never told her family what was going on. In the scene between her and Kang in the climax, and even the flashback sequences, are amazing. They were really interesting and really fun. Now let's talk about the controversial performance, Corey Stoll as MODOK. A lot of people say he's a horrible MC villain, but I thought Corey Stoll did a glorious job as this character. Yes, it is different from the comics, but MODOK is a villain you can't really take seriously, and Darren Cross is still the same. He wants revenge on Ant-Man. I will say it's better than Spider-Man 3, where Harry Osborn goes crazy because he's a fucking idiot. That stuff in Spider-Man 3 failed, while I think Darren Cross's revenge arc worked really well. MODOK's death is overly silly. It is cringeworthy, but it works for the film itself. It really works. He goes like, at least I died as an Avenger. And Ant-Man's like, yeah, sure. That was really funny. Fun fact, there were a lot of actors considered for the role of MODOK, including Will Ferrell, Jonah Hill, Keith David, Paul Rudd. Yeah, Paul Rudd was going to be double cast in this movie as MODOK. I think, Jim Carrey was also considered, Patton Oswalt, which that would have been interesting. But I do think Corey Stoll was really fun. Now let's talk about Kang, the main antagonist of the movie, played by Jonathan Majors. He does a glorious job as this character, but I have some problems with Kang as a villain. Now, I think the first 2/3, he's amazing. Like, he's very menacing. And even the third act, he's awesome, but then you get to the part where he gets beaten up by ants, that was really stupid. It was the dumbest thing in the Ant-Man trilogy. And I think, the climax is fun. This is probably the most over-the-top climax in the MCU in terms of the Ant-Man films. But, Kang's monologues are great. Like when he says, you think you can beat me. I am Kang. You talk to ants. Or he says, do you think I'm lying? Do I look like a liar to you? That was a really dark and suspenseful moment of him trying to kill Cassie. Really dark. Kang's costume is comic book accurate. Jonathan Majors' performance is astounding. I do wish they picked a different actor, because I like Jonathan Majors in this movie, but I think they should have just swapped him out with Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, so we could have had to see Kang more in the MCU. Before Jonathan Majors was cast, actors like Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Will Smith, David Oyelowo, Giancarlo Esposito, which that would have been awesome. That would have been really awesome for him to play Kang. Giancarlo Esposito, that would have been amazing. But I think the actor they got, not poorly timed, but a little bit controversial. I thought Jonathan Majors did a glorious job at the character. Everything about this movie is great. Yes, the climax is ridiculous. Yes, some of the actors didn't need to be in this movie. Bill Murray especially was just unnecessary. You didn't really need to put him in the film. But I think overall, I'll say Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania is fun but flawed. So that's why I give Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania a 7 out of 10. It's fun but flawed, and it is one of the most overhated films of 2023. I really don't think that this movie is that bad. So that's going to be my movie review for Ant-Man the Wasp Quantumania. Hope you guys enjoyed.